And we can always count on
Here we are.
to help us out. It's really September, we got a beautiful sunny day in the park. So we have lots of these events here in Vancouver.
Neil Magnuson,
Come a long way, you know.
the Cannabis Substitution Project.
For a long time here in Canada.
So he's been working hard to get people off hard drugs onto cannabis.
The Liberal Party
Done well, I
hope. New drug in the schedule, and that was cannabis. So that was the start of not very much for quite a while, because there was no real problem with cannabis anywhere going on in Canada. And then the Vietnam War happened, and a bunch of vets came back over here, and then there was a problem with cannabis in Canada. There was people arrested, and then there was more people arrested, and more people arrested. And it got to be a big thing here, and it got to be the #1 reason that RCMP and police in Canada arrest people is for cannabis offenses. It's just bloody obscene and ridiculous and disgusting. Because there's no reason to have cannabis illegal. It's not a crime by any definition of a crime to want to feel better, to want to use something that gives a bit of euphoria, that helps you sleep and helps you with pain and other things. There's never been any justification for the illegalization of cannabis, that's for damn sure. So we've been fighting a long time for that. We've been working real hard. There was quite a movement back in the 70s, but then the soccer moms got involved and they said, oh, what about the children? Well, they weren't thinking straight, because prohibition hurts children as much as it hurts anybody else. And then we got reorganized again, and we started putting on more and more rallies. And we started 420 back in about 1997, I guess, or 96. The first 420 rally happened in Vancouver. Mark Emery was behind that, and David Malmo Levine was brought here from Alberta to put that rally on and to put a bunch of other rallies on. And then we had Cannabis Day on July 1st. It was Dominion Day when we started that, and then Canada came along and decided to call it Canada Day, but really it's always been Cannabis Day. And then there's the Global Marijuana March. We always took part in that. That was started other places in the world. There's been lots of movements all over the place. For me personally, it started with a realization about how cannabis was not something that should be a crime, and then the reading of a book by Jack Herer. Jack Herer was a Vietnam vet that came back and decided to do something about the immoral prohibition of cannabis. And so he wrote a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes.
Oh, I
and
saw
that book
that.
has been the inspiration for most of the activists that I know for all of these years. Here in Vancouver, back in the 70s, there was Ian Hunter. He had an idea. He wanted to give cannabis seeds away to everybody and overgrow the government that way. Then Mark Emery came along. Mark Emery had another idea. Let's sell seeds. Let's take the money and fund legalization movements across North America. And so that's what he did. And Ian Hunter moved to Victoria and started his sacred store over there. There's been a lot of people over the years. Dana Larson comes to mind. Dana started editing Cannabis Culture magazine way back in the day when he was just getting out of UBC. He's gone on to be a fabulous activist. He's got a mushroom dispensary now. He sent cannabis to all the MPs on Parliament Hill one time. Numerous other things like that. There's a list so long that I really didn't want to start mentioning many names here today. Maybe just a few of the big ones. But there are a lot of activists that have got us to where we are. We are not there yet. We are still fighting for that legalization we've always been fighting for. We have legalization in Canada, but that's not for us. That's legalization for the rich people. That's a corporate takeover or attempted takeover of the cannabis industry. Of course, they're going to fail on that one. Every grower that was growing before and is still illegal is still growing. Why wouldn't they be? Everybody that had a bunch of clients that were buying weed off them, they're still selling to those clients because nobody wants to go to a government store. Why the hell would you? Government stores have weed you can't trust. Government stores are run by people you don't want to give your money to. Government stores are an attempt to keep the outrageous high prices of cannabis that were only there because of prohibition. We shouldn't have to pay by the gram for cannabis. That's ridiculous. I mean, you can if you want, and expensive cannabis can be grown. That's what prohibition did. Drove a lot of it indoors. Gave a lot of people money because they were making good money growing cannabis. So they put it into dehumidifiers and lights and fans and paying people good dollars to trim and all the rest of the things that happen on the green side of the market.
Okay, the girl's getting a little bit.
But it shouldn't be by the gram. It should be by the pound, like every other fruit, vegetable, and herb on the planet that we buy, except for saffron. Saffron costs a lot more. You know why? Because it would take that whole field of saffron flowers to get 1 pound of saffron that's usable. So it's very expensive. But everything else is under $10 a pound. In fact, we wouldn't pay more than $7 a pound, and the stores know it. And that's why all the very best fruit, the grapes and the the strawberries and the cherries and the blueberries, they're $6.99 a pound. That's the threshold. They figured that out. Nobody wants to pay more than $7 a pound for their fruits and vegetables. $10 a pound? That's ridiculous. Well, it doesn't take any more. It doesn't have to take any more to bring cannabis to the marketplace is what it takes to bring celery and cucumbers and lettuce and tomatoes. It doesn't have to cost any more than that. Like I said, it can cost more. You can spend a whole bunch of money in growing indoors and use a bunch of hydro and all the rest of that stuff, but you don't have to. You can grow it outdoors. You can grow it in hybrid greenhouses. You can grow it like all of our farmers grow all of the rest of our food. And it can be brought to market in bundles of branches with buds on
Our
them.
food is going to be supplied by Billy Bates.
But $10
That's
a pound.
formerly
Why
Gates
not?
with his
Cannabis
Freaky
actually
Frankenstein
yields
food.
more per cubic meter than any other crop you would grow. It grows 10, 12 feet in the air. A couple of pounds if you do it right per plant. So it doesn't cost that much to produce cannabis. It only costs that much to buy cannabis because of a corrupt government system that's been supporting greedy corporations for a very long time. And they want to sell you alcohol, they want to sell you pharmaceuticals, they want to sell you commercial tobacco. They don't want you growing your own weed, and they don't want you to have a store to walk into to be able to buy weed at a reasonable price. And they don't want you to have the good stuff, and they don't want you to have the high dose edibles. They don't want it to work for you. They don't like cannabis people. Those people that are now running cannabis stores, the owners on top, maybe some of the employees like cannabis, maybe some of the growers like cannabis, but those people that are raking in all the dough, they don't like cannabis. They don't know nothing about cannabis. They hate people that use cannabis. They just want to make a bundle of money and hurt us as bad as they can. And that's what legalization has been so far in Canada. Let's hurt the cannabis community as much as we can. Let's still make all of their cannabis illegal. Let's still make any grower that grows that's not got a government license that they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for. Let's make them still illegal. Let's add taxpayer dollars because it's not their money, it's our money. So let's even spend more taxpayer money on going after all these people who are going to grow weed and sell weed that don't have government permission. Same as ever. Prohibition, same as it ever was. Still hurting people, still ruining people's lives, still wasting our tax dollars, but even worse than that, they're trying to be the ones to sell it to us. So we've gotten to where we are because of a whole lot of people. There are literally hundreds of people that identify as cannabis activists, and that's up a lot from when I started 20-some years ago. There wasn't very many people that identified as cannabis activists or pot activists or even freedom fighters back then. But there are now.